Good afternoon. I'm Navin Girishankar, President of the Economic Security and Technology Department here at CSIS. Global technology competition is now almost axiomatic across AI, chips, clean tech, biotech, quantum, and many other technologies. We're in the midst of not one Sputnik moment, but maybe 5 Sputnik moments. And at the heart of this, and our ability to come out on top as a country, is our science and technology and innovation system, something that has been evolving in response to challenges since World War II. There is literally no one else that I would like to talk to about this than Undersecretary Geraldine Richmond, who is my guest today. Her parkour across the science community, government, both domestic and international, is unparalleled. We're so glad to have you, Undersecretary, with us today. I should mention you are currently the Undersecretary for Science and Innovation in DOE with a significant portfolio that we're going to talk about and the things that you've been doing over the last few years. You're also a presidential chair on leave from the University of Oregon, presidential chair in science. I know you'll eventually going back to teach and do your responsibilities there, but I should mention that your accolades are significant, and among other things, and I won't mention all of them, but at least ones that stand out is two terms as presidential appointee of the National Science Board, president of the American Association for Advancements of Science, several other things. We are absolutely delighted for you to be here, and we thank you for your service, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. Let me get started.
Okay.
About a year ago, or a little bit more than a year ago, President Biden, Secretary Granholm, yourself launched the Office of Critical and Emerging Technologies in the DOE, focusing on AI, biotech, quantum computing, semiconductors, a number of advanced technologies. Very interested in how that has been going over the last year and how you see that agenda evolving in the future.
Well, let me first say I'm excited to be here with you today, too, because these are my favorite topics also. You know, we have, in the Department of Energy, a lot of people just think of it as a big building in D.C., but actually we have 17 huge national laboratories that are in this, that just on the height of the best in science and innovation. And all of them have been working in AI and quantum and biotech and these emerging technologies area for a long time. But some people didn't quite know when they come to the Department of Energy where they should go for the front door to learn about what we're doing and get involved, companies also. That's in part why we created the Critical and Emerging Technologies Office, to be able to coordinate, but also to be able to get everyone going in the same direction with regards to what the priorities are in the department. And so one of the things that really spurred this start was AI, because of the huge interest in AI, and in many respects, the lack of understanding from people on the outside of just how much we do, how much we have done in AI. And so one of the, getting together our experts from our 17 labs, it became clear that we had capabilities with our exascale computers, with the huge amount of data that we generate, to be able to really take on the forefront for this nation in AI, working with partners. And so one of the things that we've done over the past year and a half is to really, once the office was set up, was really to focus on AI with a new initiative called FAST, Frontiers in AI in Science, Security, and Technology. And that is really to be able to take advantage of the interest in AI, but also provide a roadmap for the nation for how to do AI, use AI capabilities in the areas that are certainly our mission, but the nation's, and that would be national security, energy security, and scientific discovery. And so that's been the point of developing FAST, and the goal of FAST is develop models that allow us to make advances in these 3 areas and use AI in ways that are very beneficial. So underneath FAST, there are really 4 pillars, and one is national security. You know, can you use AI with these models to figure out what's dangerous about AI, and what strategies and what how you can strategically deter some of the threats that are there. In the area of energy, it's certainly advancing our work in energy with regards to more efficiency, figuring out where the using AI to figure out where the resources are, the new technologies that can be developed. And then another one is workforce, because as we know, we need a huge workforce to take this forward. And then the third is AI for scientific discovery. And that's a huge one because for someone like myself that's been a chemist for over 40 years, I've been through the ages, the dark ages, where you wanted to make a molecule, people wanted to make a molecule, and you'd go look through the catalogs and figure out, and you'd go, oh my gosh, I've got 1,000 different options. How can I synthesize 1,000 things? But with AI, now you can actually use AI, or we've used it in our laboratory, to hone it from billions of options to 30 that then you can go into the laboratory and test, right? So it's so important for scientific discovery in the energy sector too. So those are the pillars, and we see with these models, because we are in this very unique space of, with our mission of security, energy, and also going forward with discovery, that we could make a big difference in partnering with other agencies. So the FAST initiative is to really amp up and aggressively pursue needs of the nation in both energy as well as economic security.
Absolutely fascinating. The one takeaway from me from this is the ability to give focus to a whole number of initiatives and capabilities that are there in the national labs, but focus them on the biggest national goals and priorities, which I think is certainly one would say is an important focus of the last administration, and one that will continue to be important across administrations, I would assume, given the nature of global technology competition, principally with China. So let me ask another piece to this, which has to do with applications and commercialization. So this has been a long-standing challenge. There are different approaches to doing this. So there's science, technology, and then its applications. So R&D and R&D commercialization. There are different ways of doing this. Tell us what you've been doing in this regard, because I think it's ultimately that's going to be a really important driver of prosperity, productivity, national security, economic security, the things you've been talking about. That's right,
that's right. So in my role, I oversee all the fundamental science, the Office of Science, and also the applied areas also. And oftentimes these have been siloed, even in our laboratories. But if we're going to have innovation that gets us to commercialization, even those have to be integrated together. So you know the track is that the discovery science to the applied science to then on to commercialization, but there's always a big hole here, right? And that's really to be able to do, to be able to set up models, to be able to have people test it out. So research, development, deployment, and demonstration in there. And that demonstration is what DOE is working really hard at. Because with these new technologies, if they're going to commercialize, then we've got to figure out how we can get them to a cost structure that makes it, the technology to a cost structure that they'll take it on, but also to be able to test what they've done. And so we have at one of our laboratories, NREL, National Renewable Energy Laboratory out in Colorado, it really is where a lot of the demonstrations is for the grid, for example. So you can go in and plug in a technology to whatever grid they've got there to make sure that it's going to come in, interface well, and find out what the problems are. Or you can go to Pacific Northwest National Laboratory, and you can take your new battery idea and you can take it up there and test it to their new launch pad. Or you can go to Idaho National Laboratory, because they're the ones that work on nuclear energy, and you can work with them to test things out. So it's that demonstration part that I think is critical, that a lot of people don't realize that many of the companies don't have the capacity to do that demonstration, but our national lab, with our huge light sources, with our huge capabilities, can make it a lot easier for them to try things out and de-risk. It's about de-risking.
Yeah, you've highlighted a very important part of public-private partnerships and this ability R&D we know about, but R&D and demonstration is a very interesting and very important point that you raised. There's another one that has become quite important in the last few years, particularly with the CHIPS and Science Act and other legislation, which is the role of investment. So could you speak a little bit to that as well? Like, what mechanisms have you been working on in DOE, other parts of government, to generate or mobilize investment in these early stage technologies?
Yes, that's really a great question, because if you don't work with that sector, you're just on an island by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So we've taken this on very seriously in this administration, because we need to be able to have a better idea of what it takes with, especially in the emerging technologies in energy, what it takes to get those to the commercialization point. And so what we've done is we've developed an Earthshot initiative, and that Earthshot initiative is really tailored towards being able to get some of these new energy technologies into commercialization. So what we've done is we've identified 8 areas, energy areas, emerging areas, that really need to accelerate faster in the innovation as well as the demonstration in order to reach goals of our in 10 years. Okay, so for example, solar. Solar has been going for a long time, and it's further down the road. But what are the ones that we really need in clean energy that are the stumbling blocks? And what are the stumbling blocks? So we have 8 of those Earthshots, and those 8 we've done very careful analysis to figure out where the barriers are to get to that final point, and define what that final point is. What's the value? What's the cost of that technology that you have to get it down to in order for the commercial sector to take this on? Okay. So we have 8 of these. So they would be, if I can remember them, carbon renewal. Right. That would be clean fuels and products. It's being able to make chemistries that are cleaner and take less energy with them. They are, geothermal, enhanced geothermal, dig deep and get the heat beneath our feet. It's floating offshore wind. Yeah. It's hydrogen. It's long-duration storage, it's industrial heat, and it's making sure that we have energy that's affordable to homes. And for each of those 8, we have a blueprint for what you have to do to get there. So anybody that wants to work in this area, or companies, they have a roadmap to get there. And in fact, I'm glad you asked that question, because just today, we put on the website a complete analysis of what we've accomplished with these initiatives so far for the Earthshots, and what the basis are in order to make progress. So that's and we're working a lot with companies. We have these open sessions. Their companies are there to find out what their interests are too.
Certainly, one can say you are playing many keys on the keyboard with that. So let me come back to this question of lessons learned in a moment. But first, I just want to make sure I don't lose the opportunity to ask about the Foundation for Economic Security and Innovation. Tell us what that is and why that's important for the commercialization agenda, because I think there's a kernel of a potential model there that I just want to explore with you. But
so again, this is on commercialization and economic security.
Right.
This is a tough challenge these days. You know that too, because I firmly believe that the United States cannot do this alone. That we have to be working with other countries. Yeah. And so developing partnerships has been really important, not only for the Earthshots, but it certainly is on economic security and also on security, national security. Yeah. So we have all seen what the impact has been on our supply chains due to various geopolitical situations. Yeah. We have been able to survive that in many respects because of our partners. Yeah. So it's been really important for us to build and sustain those partnerships with countries that share our values. Yeah. So on the Earthshots, for example, we're working with Australia on the long-duration storage. We're working with India on hydrogen. We're working with Japan on offshore wind. Because not only do we have different environments to work in and different pushes and pulls, but we also have the capacity to learn from each other. And when there are shortages, we can go to our friends, like with many of the isotopes, radioactive isotopes that we need for medicine, that we can go to our friends and say, can you help us out? And so it's been very interesting to watch how we've benefited from working, having developed the relationships with other countries before this, so that it made it easier for us to go forward.
Yeah, that's a powerful and compelling point around innovation not being hermetically sealed, but it's something that is happening globally and we have to be aware of it. And I might add, I hope I'm not being editorial here, but in light of the competition, particularly with China, it's all the more important to think about these partnerships, is what I think I'm hearing. Let's talk about lessons learned. You know, one of the things in the past with DOE-inspired research has been the impact of specific technologies on, say, the oil and gas industry. I'll take an example, horizontal drilling, hydraulic fracturing. That was in the past. If you look in the rearview mirror, that was something that transformed that industry. If ultimately we're interested in repeatable successes, tell me a little bit about the things you've mentioned and how they're being set up for potential repeatable successes going forward to transform other sectors and industries.
Well, that's another good question. And the point is that the technologies that have been developed for oil drilling and fracking, for example, I'm glad you gave that example, is because that's what we need for enhanced geothermal, right? And so those technologies are going to benefit us a lot. And so being able to, or for example, we have, you know, all the coal mine slag that's around and so forth. You know what? There's critical minerals in those, right?
Yeah.
So our ability to take technologies that were very fossil based, we're still going to have fossil fuels around, but we can reinvent that technology to even add more energy on a grid in renewables. And so the fact that when I go out and I talk to young geoscientists, and you know, in my earlier stages when I would talk to a geoscientist and they said yes, and I'd say, what are you going to do? And they said, I'm going to go work for an oil company. And I'm not sure I want to do that, but I know it's really important for the country. Now I go to those meetings and they say, I'm going geothermal. You know, I'm going critical minerals. You know, I know where all the critical minerals are in this country because I've been studying them. I mean, it's just exciting to have the areas of science that have seemed to be stovepiped to now be open to a wide range of opportunities for young people to get excited. And I think that's why I'm so excited about what we've been doing at the Department of Energy, because now when I go out and I talk to young people that would never think of doing a scientific career because they thought you'd be stuck in a lab the whole time. Well, some people are happy about that. But anyway, but now they see the opportunity to make a difference with the kind of science that they need to learn. And for me, that's just invigorating.
That's phenomenal. Listen, you run the largest scientific enterprise in the world with the national labs, I think, probably.
In
right?
physical sciences, yes.
Yes, in physical sciences, sorry. And it raises an important question around the productivity of scientific research and how one channels resources or organizes resources in a way that ensures that, both cost effectiveness and productivity. And there are different ways of measuring it and thinking about it, thinking about the next gen scientists, as you mentioned, and how to motivate them. Could you give us a little bit more color on how you've approached that and how you would advise your successors to approach that?
Well, that's another really good question, because it is my I oversee 13 of the 17. 4 of them sit in the national nuclear security area. But you know, you want discovery to be wide open and do whatever you want to do, because that's been the basis behind basic science. You know, just come up with great ideas. But we are a mission agency. We are a mission agency. So some of that pure freedom you want to have, but people in DOE and in our laboratories also know that we're a mission organization. And so from my approach, it's really been to overcome, which I alluded to before, one of the biggest barriers, and that is to de-silo our parts of the department, because we can't make progress with those silos. And so what I'm really proud of is how people have, and across the agency, have stepped up to work with other parts of the department and not feel like they have to stay in their little cubbyhole. And the laboratories have been welcoming this also. And so it's been, I think the fact that with the urgency of energy security for this country, that even people in our labs feel that sense of importance in what they're doing. And that's made it a lot easier by talking to them about how important it is, to listening to what their ideas are, to getting excited about their ideas, and to thank them for their service for all of this. And I think it just makes an environment that makes you want to go to work. And not, you know, research is hard, right? You have a lot of failures. I guarantee you, I know, having done research for 40 years, you got a lot of failures, but there's no failure if you learn from it. Right? There's no failure if you learn from it.
Wonderful. Let me go to a question around energy more specifically, because I want to make sure I capture this. It really has to do with cost and reliability. So electricity costs have been going up. I think 10% increase in 2023. Grid reliability is going down. This is a challenge. Give us your thoughts on the specific steps that DOE has been taking, that your office has been taking to address this challenge, to ensure affordability, stability going forward. This is like a long-term issue. I think that certainly with the AI revolution ahead of us and data centers, this kind of almost reinforces that we need to pay attention to this, because there is now suddenly this other engine that's going to be demanding energy. Your thoughts on this cost and reliability issue?
Well, look, if you don't have good data, you can't do anything. And so the way we look at this is we are big collectors of data. Like I said, we generate data, but we also collect data. And so when we do our strategic plans on reliability or economic issues, we rely on the data and the fact-based data, because we have good models that we can use to go forward. And so we can't just guess what's going to happen. We have to work to predict what's going to happen. And what I think that DOE is really good at, not only in our laboratories, but also in the DOE complex overall, is being able, in the policy shop too, is to be able to put that data to use in terms of being able to predict. Now, with regards to the grid, when you think about it, it's not just the points that you made, it's also that the grid is aging. Look at the transformers. Go in your neighborhood and look at the transformers that are up there. Some of them are 40 or 50 years old, right? And they're now going to have to take on extra load every night when somebody comes in to plug in their phones, but also their car into their garage. So we need to be able to understand from a cost point how we can upgrade, do the kind of upgrade that we can to the grid, and that's why we have the Grid Modernization Initiative, which is across DOE, So not only are we fixing the grid like is happening with the wildfires right now, which are just horrific, but also any of the other weather, how can we make sure that grid is more resilient? And it means modernization, and it also means that we get the costs down so that doing the modernization doesn't end up on your energy bill, right?
You know, you've taken us through this almost panoramic view of so many things that you've been doing over the last few years and that your office is doing. I think a couple of big takeaways. The way we even govern this is important. The private and public sector working together, the different silos in the federal government, within DOE, across DOE and other agencies, departments, working together to identify goals, mission-driven. That allows us to tackle some of these big questions that you've talked about, including cost and reliability. Let me talk about one more issue, because I think I'll be remiss if I don't raise this, because you've been a champion of this for a long time, which is making sure on the science, technology, and innovation system that we have, that we bring in all the talent that we can in this country, meaning people who potentially have not been part of it, whether it's women and some of the work you've done with the Coach NGO or nonprofit that you've started, other segments of the society in different places where people have not, it hasn't been viewed as the source for talent, but they actually have talent. How should we think about that, and what are you doing, and what would you want your successors to do to keep that agenda going?
Well, what I would want the successors to do is to realize that talent is everywhere, but not everyone has equal opportunity to expose those talents or use those talents. And therefore we no longer can get away with just picking the very top people that rise to the top. We have to help others rise to the top. And that means going to institutions that don't have the experimental capabilities, for example, to do the work, but they're really smart.
Yeah.
But they can go to our labs to do it.
Yeah.
We have to make sure that we have looked in every corner that we can, because the lab bench needs to be surrounded by people who have different views.
Right.
And I guarantee you, if you grew up on a farm like I did, you have a very different view of how you make things work than somebody who's just, been a city folk, right? I mean, it's just, you've got to have people from all different backgrounds doing this. What I worry the most about is our ability to keep students going once they're interested in science at age 16. Keep them going. We need to keep them in the system. So we need to work to do that. And one way that we do that at the Department of Energy is by getting them involved in our laboratories, getting them as internships, getting their faculty as internships from many of the minority-serving institutions, but also bigger institutions. I am a product of that internship. Back in the 70s, when I got to leave Kansas to go work at Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, was a huge, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be a scientist. I wouldn't have been taken on this job if I didn't feel incredibly grateful for the opportunity I was given. And I didn't have scientific parents. My dad was a farmer, my mom was a beautician. I didn't have scientific parents. I thought an engineer was somebody that drove a train, right? So, it's people like me that I want to make sure get into the system, because what a glorious career it can be. A glorious career.
Very inspiring and compelling journey that you've been on, and to the benefit of all of us. And thank you, Undersecretary, for being here. Number of takeaways we've talked about today in terms of how our science and technology and innovation system is evolving, the contribution you have made in evolving it in response to the challenges we face today. And we're very glad that you'll be continuing your work in the science and technology community, and we hope to hear from you. You're invited to come back always and to talk more and tell us how the country is doing and give us your thoughts. But thank you so much for being here, and thank you for your service.
It's been a complete pleasure of mine, sir. Thank you so much.